Hello everybody, welcome to my channel.
Sylvia Kristel was a Dutch actress and model best known for her iconic role in the Emmanuelle film series, which made her an international symbol of sensuality during the 1970s and 1980s. Born on September 28, 1952, in Utrecht, Netherlands, Kristel began her career in modeling before transitioning to film, where she would leave an indelible mark on European cinema. Early life and career. Sylvia Maria Kristel grew up in a conservative Catholic household. After a brief stint studying at a religious boarding school, she began modeling in her teens and gained recognition after winning the Miss TV Europe contest in 1973. Her natural beauty and striking presence quickly attracted filmmakers, setting her on the path to stardom. Breakthrough. Emmanuelle. Her breakthrough came in 1974 with the French film Emmanuelle, directed by Just Jaeckin. Based on the novel by Emmanuelle Arsan, the film depicted the erotic adventures of a young woman in Bangkok. Kristel's performance was subtle yet provocative, and her ethereal, understated sensuality helped elevate the film beyond mere erotica. Emmanuelle was a massive success, spawning several sequels and becoming a cultural phenomenon, particularly in Europe and Asia. It made Kristel an international star and a symbol of sexual liberation during a changing era. Film career. Though Kristel tried to break away from her erotic image, many of her roles remained within that sphere. She appeared in a wide range of European and international films, including Private Lessons, 1981. A controversial yet popular American film. Lady Chatterley's Lover, 1981. Another sensual adaptation of classic literature. Mata Hari, 1985, where she played the infamous spy the Nude Bomb, 1980. A comedic departure co-starring Don Adams. Despite these attempts to diversify, Kristel often found herself typecast. Nonetheless, her screen presence was undeniable, marked by a blend of elegance, melancholy, and vulnerability. Personal struggles. Kristel's life off-screen was marked by hardship. She battled addictions to alcohol and drugs, endured troubled relationships, and faced financial instability. Her autobiography, New, 2006, candidly chronicled her experiences with fame, exploitation, and personal demons. The memoir revealed her intelligence and sensitivity, as well as the emotional cost of her international stardom. Legacy and death. Sylvia Kristel died of cancer on October 17, 2012, at the age of 60. Her death was met with tributes from fans and filmmakers around the world. Though her career was often framed by the erotic genre, Kristel is remembered for her subtle, dreamlike screen presence and her role as a pioneer in a genre that was, at the time, largely taboo. Kristel's influence endures not only in film history but in the broader cultural understanding of sensuality, feminism, and female autonomy on screen. Her performance in Emmanuelle remains a touchstone of 1970s cinema, a blend of art house style and erotic freedom that challenged boundaries and defined an era. Attempts to diversify. Throughout the late 1970s and early 1980s, Kristel took on more varied roles in an attempt to prove her versatility. She starred in Alice ou la dernière fugue, 1977, by Claude Chabrol, a surreal mystery film loosely inspired by Alice in Wonderland. It showcased her acting range beyond sensuality. The Concorde Airport, 1979, a Hollywood disaster film that brought her to American audiences in a more mainstream context. Tendres Cousins, 1980, a French coming-of-age drama that became another cult success internationally. She also worked in Italian and German cinema, collaborating with directors like Roger Vadim and Walerian Borowczyk. whose films often straddled the line between art and eroticism. Kristel's fluency in several languages, Dutch, English, French, and German, allowed her to work across borders, making her one of the few European actresses of the time to maintain an international presence. However, the artistic merit of her films often varied, and critics sometimes dismissed her performances despite her natural screen charisma. Hollywood years and personal setbacks. Kristel moved to the United States in the early 1980s, hoping to reinvent herself in Hollywood. While Private Lessons, 1981, was a box office hit, it stirred controversy due to its storyline involving a teenage boy and an older woman. The film, though popular, contributed further to her typecasting. She struggled in Hollywood, facing both cultural differences and personal issues. Her relationship with actor Ian McShane was turbulent, marked by substance abuse and emotional instability. She also faced difficulties maintaining her finances, losing much of her fortune due to poor decisions and misplaced trust in others. Later work and art. In the 1990s and 2000s, Kristel slowed down her film appearances but continued to work occasionally. She took supporting roles in Dutch and French productions and shifted her focus to painting. Her visual art was abstract, emotionally rich, and expressive, a reflection of the inner life she often kept hidden from the screen. In 2006, she published her memoir, New, Undressing Emmanuelle in English, which received critical praise for its honesty and introspection. In it, she reflected not only on the highs and lows of her career, but also on the loneliness that fame brought, the vulnerability of being a female icon, and the bittersweet nature of a life lived in the public gaze. Cultural impact. Sylvia Kristel remains a complex and fascinating figure in cinematic history. Her role as Emmanuelle helped redefine the boundaries of erotic cinema, transforming what was once considered exploitative into something artistic and personal. Unlike many contemporaries, Kristel approached her sensual roles with an intelligence and restraint that set her apart. She did not portray eroticism as something vulgar or aggressive, but rather as something introspective, poetic, and even melancholic. To this day, Emmanuelle is considered one of the most influential European films of its genre, and Kristel is recognized as a trailblazer who helped open the door to greater sexual expression in film. Feminists and film historians have since reassessed her work, viewing her not only as a sex symbol but also as a woman who navigated a male-dominated industry with quiet strength and dignity. Though her life was touched by pain, misfortune, and public misunderstanding, Sylvia Kristel's legacy is enduring, that of an actress who captured the imagination of millions, and who brought a uniquely European sense of sensual mystery to the screen. As Sylvia Kristel's life and legacy continue to be revisited, particularly by scholars of European cinema and feminist cultural studies, she is increasingly seen not just as a symbol of sexual liberation, but as a deeply introspective artist who paid a high personal price for her fame. Her journey embodies the paradox of erotic stardom, global adoration paired with personal struggle, artistic ambition constrained by objectification. The Emmanuelle phenomenon and its global reach. The Emmanuelle series was not just popular, it was revolutionary in the way it mainstreamed softcore eroticism. It was the first film of its kind to be released by a major French distributor and shown in mainstream cinemas. When it premiered at the Champs-Élysées Cinema in Paris in 1974, it ran continuously for more than a decade, setting records. The film's style, languid, exotic, and dreamlike, matched Kristel's on-screen presence. Unlike many sex films of the time, Emmanuelle was shot with a sense of aesthetics and mood. Kristel, who was largely unaware of the book's content when she auditioned, brought a naturalistic vulnerability to the role. That quality helped audiences, especially female viewers, identify with her, rather than simply view her as an object of desire. The sequels, Emmanuelle 2, Goodbye Emmanuelle, etc., cemented her legacy but also created a kind of creative prison. She once remarked that the role followed her like a shadow, making it difficult to be seen for anything else. Her beauty, ethereal, timeless, and nonchalant, Kristel's beauty was not just physical, it was atmospheric. She had a translucent complexion, expressive eyes that often conveyed sadness or introspection, and a kind of European detachment that gave her performances emotional ambiguity. She projected sensuality without vulgarity and intelligence without artifice. Critics often described her as having an aristocratic aloofness that elevated even the most erotically charged scenes. It was this mix of serenity and mystery that made her iconic. She never tried to be provocative, she simply was, and in a way that made audiences linger on her silences as much as her scenes. Health issues and the final years. Kristel's later life was marked by numerous health challenges. She survived a stroke in 2001, and in the years that followed, she battled throat and lung cancer, the result of a lifetime of heavy smoking. Despite her illness, she remained creative, spending time painting and occasionally acting in small roles in Dutch television and film. Her relationship with her only son, Arthur Kristel, remained central in her later life. Though strained at times, particularly due to her addictions and unstable lifestyle during his youth, she spoke often of her love and pride for him. Kristel passed away on October 17, 2012, in Amsterdam. She was only 60 years old. Re-evaluation and legacy. In the years since her death, Kristel's legacy has continued to grow. Documentaries and retrospectives have revisited her career, and her memoir Undressing Emmanuelle remains a poignant look into the emotional cost of celebrity, especially for a woman known for her beauty in an industry that often devalued complexity in favor of physical allure. Sylvia Kristel has come to symbolize a kind of European sensibility, unapologetically sensual, emotionally opaque, and artistically daring. She opened the door for later portrayals of female eroticism that were more self-aware and multifaceted. Today, she is remembered as a cinematic muse, an emblem of liberated womanhood, and a quietly tragic figure whose soft-spoken demeanor masked the battles she faced behind the scenes. If Emmanuelle was her cage, it was also her crown, and Sylvia Kristel wore it with remarkable grace. Sylvia Kristel's life, while often discussed in the context of her most famous film role, was rich with contradiction, courage, and a complex interplay between art, fame, and identity. As time has passed, the deeper aspects of her character, her intelligence, resilience, and vulnerability, have become more appreciated, moving beyond the superficial narratives of erotic stardom. Artistic intuition and acting approach. Though she was never formally trained as an actress, Kristel possessed a naturalistic and intuitive approach to acting. Directors often praised her for her ability to convey complex emotions with minimal dialogue, through glance, gesture, or silence. Her performances were imbued with quiet intensity, and even in erotically charged roles, she resisted the temptation to overact or sensationalize. Unlike many sex symbols of her time, Kristel didn't rely on overt seduction or melodrama. Her strength lay in suggestion, subtlety, and restraint. This quiet style of performance lent her roles a kind of realism rarely seen in erotic cinema and made her characters feel more like real women than idealized fantasies. She once said in an interview, "I never saw myself as a sex object. I saw myself as someone who happened to fall into a role that allowed people to project their fantasies. But I was always just me, searching for something more. Relationships and emotional fragility. Kristel's romantic life was turbulent, marked by a search for love and stability that often eluded her. She had high-profile relationships with several men, including actor Ian McShane and Belgian author Hugo Claus, the father of her son. Many of these relationships were marred by infidelity, emotional volatility, or addiction, hers and theirs. In her memoir, she reflects with disarming honesty on these experiences, often acknowledging her own role in their dysfunction. She spoke of a deep desire to be loved and accepted, yet also a self-destructive streak that undermined many of her relationships. Her son, Arthur, was a major emotional anchor. Kristel expressed profound regret over.
Bye bye. Thanks for watching. Bye.